Hello to one and all, and welcome to the US preview show. I guess we will call it for right now. How you doing, Jeff?
That'll do, mate. Yeah, going well. How about you?
I'm good, mate.
I'm a bit ragged, to be honest, after the weekend.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, you're a bit tired, are you?
yeah, that Paul Bottrell fella got me in last night after the after the expo, of course,
Yeah.
and we had a little chat till I think around about 5:30 this morning in his time, 3:30 my time.
Goodness me.
So yeah, solving all the world's problems.
Yeah, you have a glass of
As you
port.
do.
What you did it?
You got it.
SF, how you doing, buddy? Right then, so we need to get ready for the week, mate. I mean, we've
Yeah,
I
what's happening?
don't wish to don't wish to kind of get you crack the whip straight away, but we've got to get moving, haven't we? The week has started.
Yeah, I've already placed the trade.
Oh goodness me, ahead of me. Okay, what are we trading?
No, I'm not telling you. No, I'll share my screen, shall I?
Is it the pound by any chance?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not the pound.
It's
Okay.
actually against momentum, and as I speak, I've just had another look at the dollar index chart, and what I note there is we have broken to the downside again.
Yeah, it's in trouble.
There's one little wick it's got to get through. Actually, maybe we'll have a look at that first, eh?
I mean, the dollar's in terrible trouble, isn't it? Because the COT and the seasonal data suggest upside, and the fact that it's not transpiring is incredibly worrying for the dollar. We'll be heading into a fairly negative period not too far away, and the dollar could be in all sorts of trouble coming into the new year.
Well, it hasn't got much holding it up at the moment, I've got to tell you. That's about it. After that, it's whoops.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it does look like a bit of a whoops, doesn't it? And looking at this, I'm looking at the monthly chart. It's got some room. I'm looking at the weekly's got some room. The daily's even got some room. The 4 hours a little bit oversold. Hourly is embedded down the bottom. So the short-term time frames look a little bit overextended, but the longer term timeframes look like they might have a little bit more room to the downside. So the dollar's in trouble, and I'm with you, mate. Were you trading the dollar upside? Were you?
I am at the moment, yes. And look, I think that's okay because we are at a support level or thereabouts at the support level. So I'm not discounting the fact that or the potential that we could come back and have another look at this level before it does go short. Remember I said last week that this key reversal bar followed by an inside bar was a precursor to what may come next. That may well be playing out. But again, I think it's still possible for this to come back and have another look at this, maybe at this confluence area. That's a longer term trend line, that one. So, maybe we're not really in crash zone yet, but as I say, if we get through that level, I think it's bye dollar. Frankly.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, isn't it, with the dollar? Because what would move it today? What are you trading it against?
The CAD.
The CAD. Okay, interesting. Okay, well, I thought you were going to throw me something European, so that's caught me a bit of a curveball because the CAD's, the CAD's a bit of a different one, but the European currencies have, or the European economies have been posting, as we know, today, as you probably know today, and they came in weaker than expected in France, but better than expected in Germany. I think. European flash PMI came in better than expected. The services sector is still in a lot of trouble, and it appears that the pandemic, the vaccine can't really come soon enough. It's very difficult, I think, for traders to make decisions here, and predominantly because we've had such a run in some of these, such a decent pop. There's been an incredibly good pop to the upside in some of these, and it has probably promoted. It's probably promoted something that looks a shade overextended. So you don't really want to see these. The participants now need to see the numbers reflecting their mood, which is that things are turning around, which they're not doing. I also will presume that you are up to date on the AstraZeneca news of their vaccine being 70%.
Oh, it's gone down.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing. I thought
Although it
AstraZeneca
wasn't, it was never saying like the Moderna numbers or the Pfizer numbers. I get.
Yeah, well, that seems to be what people are comparing it to, because AstraZeneca actually, the fact that they released their third phase results and that they are 70% is really a positive, and I wouldn't be surprised if that had happened first, that we would have got the pop, and then we might have seen further extension with the others, because the AstraZeneca vaccine is cheaper to roll out than any of the others, and maybe that's some of the problem. They've got more orders than anybody else globally for their vaccine, and their vaccine isn't coming in quite as strong as the others, as efficient, as the other two. So we have seen AstraZeneca just ease to the downside, and FTSE 100 actually easing a little bit to the downside. I've also seen the IBEX easing to the downside this morning as well, but nothing major. I mean, I think we need a pullback. We do need a pullback to get into these. And the dollar, what I was going to say about the dollar is that I'd be surprised if it broke down today, because I don't see a driver. And considering we're at such a significant level, it does make it a bit of a shocker. And my whole thesis with the dollar, which is why I agree with what you've done, is that we should stick within this kind of lower range at worst, while seasonality and COT data suggest upside. So my thesis with the dollar is that if the dollar weakens against some of these currencies, it's probably not a bad time to start looking for buying opportunities, just in the medium to short term. Nothing overextended, but by any stretch, but just in a short term to the upside.
Well, this play here is exactly that, because if you look at this chart pattern here, that's a mighty double top that you're seeing on the monthly chart. That suggests to me that we're headed this way. And when I say this way, I think there's a massive amount of pips available when this does go. You could be down to there. Forget parity. We could be down here. And I don't think that's unrealistic, frankly. But this is the level that's got to break, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's going to break readily. As you can see, we've been here for 2014. We first entered this range, and we've been inside, outside, all over the shop. And now we're back in there again. I won't be very surprised. That's not true. But I would be anticipating that this will go back and have another look at this level. And then I'll start looking for the short, and I won't close it. I'll keep it open just in case it does go. If it goes from here, it goes. Look, it's simple as that. But that's not what the chart's telling me. The chart's telling me that on the daily chart, we've started to form another range in this area, and we've come back into it after having a false break of it, and we've put in a higher low here. That's my play. I'm really playing that candle there. And at the end of the day, I think if this goes now, so be it. We're not going to be taken into that trade. Yeah. But I'm just playing the range, mate. Pretty much it's a simple trade and something that I do each and every day. So it's no big thing for me. It's just a standout. Okay, got to do it. If this level goes, then I'll cancel the order pretty quickly, because we'll probably test this low again if this does go now. And, the way the dollar is, anything's likely. And those big gaps underneath it, man, they've got to be beckoning. And I reckon we're going there. It's just a matter of when for me.
Yeah, and interesting, really, but with the fact that you've chosen the CAD always brings me to look at the oil chart. And WTI is probably at a bit of a level of potential retracement as well. it's just a question of what's going to bring it down, because there's no doubt to my mind that that WTI is probably continue to get a boost into next year with the economy starting to pick up. But there's this huge push for a change in the environment of the economy, and and how these global economies work. So I think the oil story is probably going towards its death march, but I think it probably goes to the upside before we see some significant downside as the global economy and the global picture does change. As the reliance on oil is still there, so I think in the near term oil could get a boost, but it is at a significant level. So I can see why you'd want to maybe link that with the CAD. The Canadian economy actually is all right too. It's not in bad shape. The Canadian economy, they're not in too bad shape at all. I think was some of the retail sales numbers out last week. I thought they were quite good.
Yeah, they were good.
So they're not in too bad shape. I mean, it's only one data point, but to touch on. But there are a few data points actually from the Canadian dollar. From Canada, that have been pretty good. So I could certainly see some Canadian dollar strength, but maybe the timing isn't quite there yet. So some dollar boost. I'm with you on that.
When it comes, I'm not overexcited by it, I've got to say, but it's there now. The play is there now, and if I don't take it now, then I wouldn't take it at all. So I'm quite happy to do that.
Yeah. Just to have a look at Roy's question as well. So Roy's saying, can you share about S&P going up today, some third Monday where options settle? Let's have a look. And we are in the third Monday, are we? This is the fourth Monday.
This is the fourth Monday, and it was a trade. It was a Shukri one, I think, wasn't it? Was Shukri? Was a what's his face that Shukri follows?
Larry Williams.
Larry Williams.
Yeah, I suppose is it a buying opportunity?
I think it's a buy, yeah, and I think it's a Thanksgiving play.
Yeah, I was going to say that would make sense that it was a Thanksgiving play. I've got to be honest though, this wouldn't be where I'd want to get into the S&P, and I'll show you why. Yeah, it seems a bit early to me. Where is everything? There we go. Let's have a look at the S&P. I get the Thanksgiving idea, but look at the S&P on some of these longer term timeframes, and we're in Monday. So to be buying it on a Monday, not too sure. I think maybe buying it on Wednesday, Thursday, possibly into Thanksgiving. I would concur with that. But if you look at last week's, the last couple of weeks that we've had from the S&P, they've been a little bit tepid. The first one here. Actually, I need to put my my pen on. The first one here was bullish, but it was quite a negative. It had a negative spin on the bullish momentum to the upside. The second one as well is a little bit bearish, and it's looking a shade toppy up at this particular level because of that. I mean, obviously we haven't got levels to go on anymore because these are all-time highs, but if we go back to the monthly position on the monthly charts, also the monthly charts looking a little bit toppy up here as well. So I would have thought some easing down would be likely. Now that doesn't mean that I doubt that there will be a rally into Thanksgiving. I think that that any easing down was probably more likely to come next week than this week. But I want it at a better price than this if it came down to Thanksgiving. So I haven't really got a we'll look at the pound as well, SF, for sure. I haven't really got an entry for you on this one, Roy, to the upside. If I was entering this, I'll be looking at the short. The dollar being so weak doesn't help things with this one. But look where we are. It looks to me like this is a decent area for a short. Now let's have a look at this with pivots as well. Yeah, look, you got the weekly pivot there as well. There's a lot suggesting that the short is on here. There's a trend line running down here as well. I mean, I don't know exactly where that trend line goes. Difficult to get it with so many spikes, but it looks like it's somewhere around there, which appears to me that we're on top of that level. So I would have thought a bit of easing down rather than moving up. Let's just check this pattern as well. you could argue that there's a potential left shoulder there as well, and a possible right shoulder forming. You know, with this, I think you could make the argument that that the downside looks pretty good. Let's see. I mean, whether you want to trade the downside is another question, of course, but the downside looks quite on there. That looks like that we could be looking at that as a potential head and shoulders pattern, and we are at the top of the right shoulder, if that is the pattern, and there's the neckline along there. So if I was going to pick this one up to the upside, I'd want it on the neckline. I'd want it down here, and then look for the long. Somewhere around about 35.25 would be my play on that one. So not convinced by the S&P. I don't really want to trade it down. I don't really want to trade it long at this particular stage. If it came down here, let's have a look. But that could be part of our plan. We'll have to put together a plan in the US session. But we'll have to make a judgment call on that and have a look through some other data and see if that's likely. Okay, so the pound dollar on the 4 hour. So let's talk about the pound first in a broader context. What's going on with the pound? Well, Brexit is going on with the pound, and Brexit's been relatively positive over the last few days. So, you know, pick your poison with a pound. Which way are you going to go with it when it comes down to the pound? I think longer term, I think the pound is one of the weak performers in the G8, and probably one of the weak performers of the major currencies that we get to trade as well. But for right now, we need to stay bullish with the pound. We need to stay moving to the upside, and it might be a long to go short. I haven't really thought of a play with that one right now, but I do think that the pound has got a decent opportunity to continue to strengthen. We also had some decent numbers from the UK today, which is going to give it a boost. You know, if you were looking at the short, it wouldn't be today. Flash manufacturing PMIs came in at 55.2. Previous was at 53.7. The forecast was a miss at 50.5. Flash services PMI also in contraction at 45.8, beating forecast at 43.2, but worse than the previous at 51.4. So services aren't doing particularly well. Now services cover quite a broad region, and travel will come into that particular zone. So it's no major surprise that services are weak, but the expectation was beaten. So we're likely to see some further upside with the pound, with Brexit and the data points. Now, does that mean that there's an opportunity today? It doesn't look like it to me. If I was going to trade this, what, mate, you were going to say something?
That's right. It's going to have a tough job, because to get through, it's a very strong resistance level that I've got on a monthly chart, and right. It's been above that level that I'm talking about for 4 months in the last 4 years.
Right.
So right. It doesn't like it above there.
Yeah, I mean the UK is in a bit of trouble, and if we kind of think about what's happened globally and think about what's the broader picture for some of these currencies, we should be looking at Aussie long, we should be looking at Kiwi long. We probably should be looking at pound short when it comes to the broader picture. We should probably looking at dollar short, the CAD probably long. The Swissy sitting somewhere in the middle, and the yen probably a short as well, but a little bit more tricky. But the pound doesn't really bode me with that much confidence. Now you're talking about where's the entry on a 4-hour chart. So we're talking cross purposes when it comes down to time frames, because I'm talking about a longer term time frame. If I was going to trade this to the upside, it would be fairly close to where the daily pivot is. Now you might not really like it if it came down to that particular point, because that would be a fairly negative move in regards to price action to get us back down here. But the daily pivot and the trend line look like a potential opportunity if we do like the long. So let's see what else might be here. You know, a fib would be enough to bring us to that. Yeah, and there's a fib there. There's the 61.8 retracement, which isn't the best, but there is also this one here at 50%. Now that's at 1.3296. So call it 1.330. As it's the round number as well. You would then coincide with this horizontal level He'd be a little bit above the daily pivot, and it looks like it would coincide by the time it came back down there with this trend line. So 1.330 would be a potential long with a pound. Aside from that, I don't see it. I don't see it. I think anything higher just doesn't provide any kind of value. And what Geoff's talking about is the longer term timeframes. The longer term timeframes along here, where we got bin that off. Yeah, longer term timeframes. I see what he's talking about. We were here for a while in 2017. Let's just go back a bit further. Yeah, I mean the pound does look relatively.
Mate. That's the only time it's been.
This is a strong resistance level. This is a strong resistance level on the longer term timeframes. If the pound takes this area out, then it gives it a different picture, but it would have to take that area out first, which and I'm talking about on a monthly chart as well,
and put your trend line in as well from the top.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at that. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I don't see a buy there.
I see what you're saying. So we're right on top of that trend line. Yep. So let's put in that 4-hour area, and then go back to.
What's going
very
to drive,
close?
What's going to drive it through?
Well, I suppose what will drive it through there is probably a favourable Brexit deal. What also happened over the weekend was that the UK managed to do a deal with Canada to keep the same trade agreements that Canada made with the EU. So the UK has managed to potentially transition a shade easier with keeping a deal with Canada as it has done. It needs to do the same with countries like Singapore as well. So there's a lot of work still to do with the UK. But if they can do some transition trade deals, keeping it relatively smooth when it leaves the EU at the end of the year, that will help it, and a trade deal will help it too. So I would have thought further good news will take us through, and it probably will take us through, particularly against the dollar. The other thing that could take us through, of course, is a crazy weak dollar. So with good deal, both pound and the UK stocks.
That's possible.
Oh yeah, well, so Roy, if you're interested in UK stocks, then it's a really interesting point, and you've touched on the most important aspect of the pound going up. If you look at the pound going up, then you need to be filtering out the UK stocks that trade more on an international basis, and filtering in, if you like, the UK stocks that trade domestically, because they will do well with a pound. Housing and property tends to do well with a stronger currency, but some of those international players won't do quite as well because they make their profits in other countries, and when they come back and have to pay dividends, then those dividends are reduced somewhat. So yeah, certainly looking at domestic stocks in the UK will be very good if the pound goes up, and for sure a good deal will allow the pound to go up anyway, but a good deal for sure will be good for UK stocks. So I think you make a good point, and I like your thinking. I like the angle there. So yeah, definitely worth watching out for.
I don't think there's any fear of this. Well, fear is not the right word. I don't think there's any doubt that this can happen. The pound can break that level. The problem is why now? Is it why today? That's the problem I would have.
Oh, and, yeah, agreed.
We're not the only ones seeing that resistance level. And
yeah, agreed.
If you're going to play that long, to me, it's wait for it to break and then come back.
Yeah.
And hit the confluence area. Then you've got to trade.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with it, is that that there is still a little bit more road to travel on the Brexit negotiation path. So they would need to come out and say something positive. I mean, we are getting whispers that things are getting better. So I suppose that's why we are seeing the moves that we are seeing in the pound. But they're not finished yet. But it could actually go through on a bit of a punt for many traders. I think that people are getting a bit more certain. I think they said that the deal is 95% done. So they're getting a little bit more certainty. So that may well drive the pound to the upside. I think it could happen.
Interesting chart, actually, when you look at that monthly chart. There's been a clean out of anybody who was short going back two highs where that spiked up and then went straight to the bottom, spiked straight back up.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible, horrible. You're dead in there. You can't win in there.
Yeah. It is. And I think the markets recently have been kind of horrible. I'll tell you one thing that I did think was interesting, though, is that we've all been focused on gold and maybe playing gold against the dollar, but actually we should be looking against the pound. It's a much better trade to trade gold against the pound than it is the dollar, because the pound is strong at the minute and it is likely to stay strong while we've got decent Brexit headlines. But it is very
maybe the
headline
Aussie as
driven.
well.
Yes, and the Aussie as well. Yeah, and the Aussie actually is better because at least with the Aussie it's more down to kind of a fundamental reason.
It's on firmer ground, isn't it? Really,
much firmer. Yeah, I mean, if we were grading the economies right now, then the Aussie would come up relatively high, and very near the top. The pound actually would come quite low, in my opinion. I don't think the pound's on good footing at all. But the Aussie and the Kiwi, but both look like they're on decent footing, and I guess the Kiwi's going to get a decent back scratch from the fact that the Aussie is on decent footing, and the fact that China on decent footing too. So,
did I see good numbers for the Kiwi this morning? I think I did.
Oh yeah, that's a point. Yeah, there was some numbers posted, weren't there? Bank holiday in Japan. What do we got? Retail sales. Oh yes. I mean that's a fantastic number. So if we think about this, look at this number here. So the previous was 14.8. Now for let's just call it 14, just for argument's sake, just to make it a bit easier for me. For this to get back flat, the number it had to reach was 28. Because if you go down 14%, you've got to go back up 28% just to get back to where you were before. And the fact that that's jumped in that particular way is incredible. If you
it really underlines the mantra that we've been singing, I suppose, about the Kiwi and the Aussie, which is they're far better positioned COVID-wise.
Yeah.
And that's probably a reflection of that, I would think.
Yes. Jeff, fan saying that he thinks the pound Aussie we took last week just has been triggered, or was it triggered then?
I haven't got mine triggered. Or have I? Maybe I have. No, it's not showing up as a trade. I've got the trade still there. Oh, yeah, it has. No, it hasn't. No, it's still pending. Okay. So I've got the entry at what, 184.95? 184.95, I believe. Yes.
182.
That's interesting. We're at 184.95. Why have I got it there?
Fan said the trigger was at 18269.
That's what I've got on my screen, but that's not the order I've got. That's interesting. I've just mucked up my order. So yes, you have been triggered.
Okay. Well, we'll look at that.
I haven't. I've just made a blue with my my order. That's all.
All right, mate. Well, let's have a look at that in the show. Let's go to the other side of it. We're going to say a friendly farewell to everybody in the YouTube channel right now, and we're going to switch to to Zoom and get into the US market. We're going to just have a look at this trade, and then we'll see if we can just write down some ideas for the week. We'll have a look at some cot data and some seasonality as well, and just see if we can grab some ideas for the week. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We're going to kick it off with a tune, but as always, thanks very much, and we will see you tomorrow. Will we not?
I will.
Fantastic. Oh yes, you will.